right, welcome. So today we are moving on to the next section of our React Native discussion, and that is talking about navigation through React through our mobile applications. How do we change screens? How do we, click a button to go to a different screen, work through like tab navigations, menu navigations, things of that nature. So today is the first discussion we're going to have on React navigation. We're going to talk about things like what are the required dependencies that we need to install before we can actually start navigating through our application, through our screen. And then we're going to look at specifically the React navigation uh, modules or libraries that we can get for React. Now, before we get started, let's talk about screens. Now, more specifically, what are they? If we were viewing our application in a web browser, then a screen would be our web page. However, in React Native, a screen is made up of views, scroll views, safe area views. Now, when we're talking about mobile applications, they are rarely made up of single screens. So therefore, we need to learn how to use the React Navigator to handle the presentation of and transition between multiple screens. So with React Navigation, the community solution to navigation is a standalone library that allows developers to set up the screens of an app with a few lines of code. Now, before we begin, we need to install some of the additional dependencies for NPM and expo. And these dependencies consist of the React Native Gesture Handler, the React Native Reanimated, React Native Screens, React Native Safe Area Context, React Native Community / mask view, React Navigation / stack. Now, to install these, we need to just go out to our console and we can install them with the NPM, expo, and any of the other installations that we need. Now, we're going to jump out now and actually get started with the hand-on presentation. So I'll open up my console here. So to install our dependencies, if we are using Node, we're going to use npm. Move this zoom out of my way. We got npm, and then you do install. And to install all those React Native the React Native dependencies, we do @react native, React navigation /native. Hit enter, and this will install all the dependencies. And there we go. The warnings are okay, and there are some vulnerabilities and whatnot. Depending upon your version of Node or Expo, you may have to install some additional updates or fixes. And if we do Expo install React Native. So unfortunately, though, for React, we have to actually install each of these modules separately. Whereas by doing the npm install React Native navigate, we actually get all of these modules or libraries installed for us. Now, we still need to install this guy for Node, so let's go ahead and do him first. So if we do npm install native stack, clear, and then if we do expo install, may not work. Have one line. Yep. Oh, and the dashes. So you install to Expo. Now, I've already done this, and this will take a minute to install. Yeah, because I've already done that. Got it. All right, so we already have the Expo components. Now, if you have a bare React Native project, you'll need to install the dependencies with npm, like I just showed you before. However, there are also some additional settings for iOS with bare React Native projects. We will not be covering that today. However, if you are planning on building a bare React Native project, go check out the documentation on reactnative.dev for more information on how to set the additional settings you need to set up. All right, so let's talk about React navigation. So before mobile apps, we had web pages and browsers. So in order for us to navigate to different pages on a web page, we had to use the anchor tag. So let's go look at a browser real quick and see what an anchor tag looks like. Browser. So here we have Chrome, and let's go to stuff.com. I always pick on my site. May or may not come up. Yeah, there it is. All right, so each of these links here, this is how we would navigate through our site. And if we actually inspect this guy, I click on it. Yep. So if we inspect it, we see we have an anchor tag, an A with an href. Now this is how we navigate in a web browser. So when the user clicks on a link, the URL is pushed to the browser history stack. So if the user presses the back button, the browser properties takes the item from the top of the history stack and loads it up. So it becomes the active page. And now the page that we're currently on becomes the previously viewed page. If I click back, it takes us back. So we will need to use React navigation because React Native doesn't have a built-in idea of a global history stack like a web browser does. React Navigation Stack Navigator provides a way for your app to transition between screens and manage navigation history. So if your app uses only one stack navigator, then it is conceptually similar to how a web page browser handles navigation state. Your app pushes and pops items from the navigation stack and uses and the users can interact with it, and this results in the user seeing the different screens. Another key difference between how this works in a web browser and in React Navigation is that React Navigation Stack Navigator provides the gestures and animations that you would expect on Android and iOS when navigating between routes in the stack. And before we can use the stack navigation library, we need to install another library. And for that, we installed the React Navigation Stack. Now, since we've now installed all of our libraries, we are now ready to build and run our applications on our device and simulators. So let's create a new application. I'm into my workspace here, and we'll do an expo init sample app 5. We're going to do another blank or bare canvas application. Sorry, my network's a little slow today. Not sure why. There we go. All right, now it's created our project. So it tells us first we need to go in to our sample app 5. So we're going to sample app 5. Now, since we're using expo, we're not going to use the node commands here. Instead, we're going to do expo start. Now I'll open up another tab here, which will be in my sample app 5 directory. And we will type code dot to open up Visual Code. Right, Visual Code is opening. Expo is started. So let's actually open up and run some apps. Let's open an iOS simulator. Okay, so it's opening up the iPad. And I also want to open up iPhone 8. Okay, the iPad opened up to our default app, loaded Expo, all the new updates, and iPhone 8 is still loading. Let's open. And there we go. So we now have our app running. So Expo is running, and we've deployed to 2 applications. So let's minimize our console. We're done with that for now. And let's go over to our app and open up the app.js file. And this is our basic application here. So the first thing we note is we have our input status bar that gives us that expo status bar when we shake the device. To use the React files, we need to import React from React, and we need some basic screen functionality. So we have view, text, and style sheet. Now, we need to add an additional feature here. So let's actually move our React here up to the top, and let's actually import all. So now we're pulling in everything from React. Sorry about that. Hide these meeting people. There we go. Okay, everything's still working. All right, we have our input status bar, we have our view. So next, we need to actually import our navigation container and the stack navigator. So here, we're going to do import. And then we want the navigation container from React.navigation native. And import create stack navigation, or navigator. React native, React navigation. This gets to be a bit of a tongue tied, so I apologize. Stack. Create navigation. Create stack. View style. Okay. The cheat sheet here, make sure I didn't misspell anything. Okay, React Navigation not in my folder, so we'll go back out here. Stop expo for a moment. Since I reinstalled Node, I need to make sure I reinstall it for expo. And I need to make sure I do it inside of the application. Now let's restart expo. That's a good little error because it actually showed us that what happens when you do not install React Native in the correct folder. Load, enable to resolve stack. There we go. No, it may not be represented. Oh, yeah. Right there. There we go. Okay. And oops. All right. And expo. All right. Now let's do expo start. Yeah. Reload. That. There we go. Now the apps are loading without an error. So if you do not load the React Native components inside of your project, then they will not be accessible.